Okay. Hello, everybody. We are doing another IDPguys.org rookie mock draft. This one is mixed with IDP players as well as offense. So all of you IDP guys out there can take a look and see where some of the top fantasy defensive players are getting mixed in with some of the offensive players. I got my guy Steve at Fantasy Ladder here and our guy Axe Harden joining me. So, fellas, how's it going?
It's going well. Awesome to be here.
Yeah, not
Good.
too bad. I'm glad to be here too.
All right. So we're just gonna dive right in, and we're gonna go through the first round individually, and then we're gonna do sort of a draft of the draft for the rest of the rounds and talk about some specific players that stand out to us, whether we like them or dislike them, and some strategy talk. So right off the bat, I know. So I was involved in this particular draft. This is a 1 QB non-TE premium, so kind of your standard rookie mock draft. So I greedily took the 1-1 and took my guy Breece Hall. Was very happy. Obviously, I think we did a super flex review yesterday, and although I did not have the first pick in that one, Breece Hall still went first overall. So it seems like he's working out to be the consensus rookie pick first overall, no matter what the platform or settings are. So whether it be Superflex or not, it sounds like Breece Hall is still going first. Steve, what do you think about Breece Hall 101?
Yeah, no, this to me is the most common sense pick in either Superflex or single QB. He just doesn't have a lot of flaws in his game, so I think this is the absolute safest, smartest pick. Absolutely. So that I would break my phone screen smashing his name.
Yeah.
As far as that's concerned. So I think you definitely made the right choice there.
Yeah, I think this is one of those years where don't outthink yourself. Don't draft for need. Take the best player available and take Breece Hall. Are you on the same page there, Axe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, like you guys were just talking about, no matter what format, what platform, Breece Hall is pretty well going to be your most reliable guy as far as anybody in this draft class. So absolutely.
Seems like he's the only running back that's probably got even a shot at sneaking into the first, probably the end of the first. I've seen him mock the Buffalo maybe, which would be pretty sweet unless they decide to keep forcing Zach Moss or even Devin Singletary. Not a big fan of his personally, unless they try to keep forcing those two into the picture beyond relief duty. I think that Buffalo would be a great landing spot for Hall in that dynamic offense. But any other landing spots you guys would like to see Hall at? Like I said, he's probably going to be either end of the first or early mid second. So whatever teams are in those ranges.
Yeah, I do think the Bills are the most ideal, not only for his own fantasy upside, but just for success in general, because Josh Allen isn't just going to stop rushing himself, and he still is going to get touchdowns himself. So I think it would be a phenomenal 1-2 punch there between Allen and Hall personally. And, I was encouraged by what Singletary was able to do, especially last season, but he's just a guy, so there's nothing against him. It's just, Hall would definitely take them to a very unique level where, trying to be a defender against them, I wouldn't want to be that, I think another team that could work could be the Texans, which might be a little bit gross initially, but I think again, that whole team has nowhere to go but up. But I think that would be a reasonable selection for both the team, probably in the early second. But I can't see him getting out of the second round, just personally.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. I would have to say Texans or Bulls would be probably a better fit there. Those are two offenses that are kind of looking for a running back to really just step up and kind of take over that part of the offense. But it's kind of been something that's proved to be, failed attempt. So I think it'd be no doubt in their best interest to kind of spiffen up that running game and get a solid back in there. Someone, so they don't, that's just, a matter of the offense they don't have to take care of moving forward. They can move on to other aspects.
Set it and forget it. Roll him out there and give him 20, 25 touches a game, and you're set. What I like about Buffalo potentially is maybe to take some pressure off of Josh Allen to be needing to run the ball and save those legs and hopefully give him not as many chances to potentially get injured. So I really think that would be a slam dunk pick for them. Houston that might cause some people to get off of Hall as the 101. So yes, that would be very yucky at first. However, we know Houston loves their running back, so hopefully they would give him the rock. But even if he lands in Houston, I would still take him first.
And Houston does have a lot of holes to fill, obviously, but the Jaguars still did take Travis Etienne in the first round last year. So anything is possible. I would not advise it. I'm just saying, like, range of outcomes, like even in a gross spot, it would still I would still be excited for Hall, even though some people might get a little shy. I would not shy away.
Just out of pure usage, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be what they would be looking to open up everything else.
Exactly. All right. Then we're going to move on. The second pick here was Treylon Burks. I think he's, this wide receiver class is very deep and very polarizing. People are all over their rankings with guys like Burks, and the next ones we'll see here coming up. Personally, I do have him as my rookie wide receiver one. I don't think, unless he somehow slips to like the third round, which I think is nearly impossible, even if he's, I feel like it could be similar to like a Justin Jefferson situation where even if he's not the first wide receiver taken by the NFL, I don't really care. I'm sticking to my guns here, and I'm not moving him. I don't care. Like I said, unless he somehow slips to the third, which I give about a 0.01% chance of happening. It could be mid-second, late second, whatever. I think I'm sticking to my guns here as the wide receiver one. So I'm in agreement with our guy Clinton there, taking him at the second overall. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think he has just immense upside. I really kind of like him as like another type of like DK Metcalf, where you just put the ball in his hands and he'll make a big play. Although there may be some spikes there, because I can see some games where the kind of the ugly floor can come out, where someone like a Garrett Wilson would have maybe a safer like PPR floor. But I just think as far as ceiling goes, Burks is definitely the way to go. He is my first wide receiver as well. I would aim for the upside, because the group of like the first five or so after Burks, like I could kind of give or take any of them, and they're all pretty good, but I don't have one that's more, for me personally, one that's more outstanding comparatively. So I would try to hone in on the 5XL glove Burks there.
Yeah. Let's go, baby. Hand size. How do you like Burks there, Axe?
Hey, I like that. I mean, like you guys were saying, he's just about anywhere he's going to go, he's going to be able to contribute.
Thank you.
You just can only hope he goes into a situation that is most ideal for him and somewhere he can really take over and kind of flip an offense around, and really show what he's made of. Although it would be cool to see him with the premier, a premier wide receiving core. I think he really comes in and helps most in a struggling wide receiving offense. I think he can be that focal point to kind of open up the wide receiver 2s and 3s on a lot of teams that really aren't there to take over that number one spot, and that's all they need,
Right. Yeah, I've seen him go mock to the Jets, which I think would be great for both him and Elijah Moore. See you, Corey Davis. I gave him a shot. He started off the year so good too, but if Burks goes there, I think bye-bye Corey Davis. I think you're done for fantasy purposes.
No doubt.
You'd love to see Burks land with a top-tier quarterback. But, when Jefferson landed in Minnesota, people weren't thrilled, with Kirk Cousins there. So I think that's my biggest, not necessarily player comp, but more of like situation comp. Like I could see him falling and maybe not be the first, wide receiver selected by the NFL, but I'm going to learn from the Justin Jefferson situation and not make any hasty moves there, So sweet. Sounds like we all like Burks. We all like Hall. How about KW3, Kenny Walker coming out of Michigan State with that monstrous year last year. I'll let Ax, what do you think about him?
I think he's, of all the running backs, he's definitely going to be the next best up to take off the boards.
Nice. Okay. So you like him over Spiller and the rest, and you like him as RB2?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would say.
Okay. Nice. Steve, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do like Walker. I would probably still continue to go with wide receiver there, although I really can't blame the pick because to nail down, a quality running back like that is extremely valuable in Dynasty. It would be kind of a roster dependent thing for me, but just generally in a vacuum, of course, and nothing's in a vacuum, but in a vacuum, I would probably lean more with the wide receiver with the longer career life. Typically in the league. So that's where I might turn to Garrett Wilson there, but I really would have a hard time letting Walker slip past like 4 or 5 even. So it's kind of splitting hairs to a certain degree, but really I am a big fan of Walker. That game against Michigan was just like, how do you not it's like so tempting to take him there. So I can't discredit whoever took him there, but
he came and said, "I'm for real" in that game, right?
That's right.
I think this comes down to what type of dynasty manager are you? Are you a guy that's, running backs, the position scarcity? Are you an old school, quote unquote, guy? That's me. I would struggle to pass on Walker there myself. And I'm trying hard to adapt to the times and say, like you said, wide receivers have longer shelf lives. So, it really, if Burks was there, I might have, if somebody else had gone at the 1-2 and I had my pick between Burks and Walker at the 3, I might go Burks, and try to adapt my style a little bit. But it really all kind of depends on what type of manager you are. Obviously, again, we say try not to draft for need necessarily, especially in the early rounds and the early selections there. Draft the best players, draft talent, and trade for need. But it's hard. It's hard to fade any of these guys at the top here. So that segue right into Garrett Wilson there. So you're a Wilson fan, right, Steve?
Yeah, I mean that there's just a lot to love, and there's not a lot that he doesn't do well. As far as his combine testing and what he can do on the field. Obviously, there's just not a lot of flaws in his game, so it's like just a pretty safe player here at the top. And even with the crowded house of talent in Ohio State, he still showed out pretty well. So I would definitely have him in that top of the tier below Burks. So this would be like an obvious choice for me here. So I like that by Joey.
So sure. Guy Joey the Tooth, he knows what he's doing. So obviously that's a good pick. So it sounds like you kind of have Burks and Wilson almost like 1A, 1B, something like that. Are they pretty close for you, right?
Yeah. I would definitely have more of a liking to Burks, but he's definitely just right behind him. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, Ax, what do you like out of Wilson? Would you have taken him there?
Now this next group of wide receivers, like
it's kind of bunched up.
They're pretty close. So I think, I don't know that you could go too wrong with Wilson, Olave, or London, but I think I'm definitely favoring Wilson over the latter for sure.
It's kind of pick your poison, right? It's going to be, I feel like there's not many people, outside of Burks and maybe London. I don't know. There's people jumping up and down to say that there's, a clear number one out of this whole group.
I would say that the draft will tell a lot.
Yes.
It will tell so much with a lot of these groups.
Absolutely. So, it's tough to hate any of this group here coming up. So now Wilson Olave was played till his senior year. Wilson came out as an early declare, correct? Am I right on that? Okay, good. So yeah, that would have me probably lean towards Wilson, especially for dynasty. You're getting potentially an extra year of NFL production there. So, but boom, right after him, we went to his teammate Olave. I know, so that's our guy Brandon. Brandon loves Olave. That speed. He did produce sort of the Alabama effect there in Ohio State, right? A lot of mouths to feed. So tough to hate that pick. I don't hate it at all. You know, I think I would have done the same thing. What about you guys?
Yeah, man, I'm in the same boat. I'd have to say, like I say, this next group is pretty close. So depending on what teams and what weapons are already available and what these guys can, the potential that they'll have with whatever team is really going to tell them. Yeah, I think it's going to define where exactly a lot of these guys are going to go in this group. But Olaf really kind of sits right there in the middle for me, again, behind Burks and Wilson. Okay. Right in there in the middle, it seems about good. But I like to say any one of these guys, depending on where they go, that's really going to tell. That's going to be the difference maker for me personally.
Nice.
Yeah, and I appreciate Brandon's gusto here, because it seems like from what I've gathered, Olave typically is at the back end of this bunch that you typically see. I see London go ahead of Olave more, but I really can't blame him. I mean, because he is just like a silky smooth route runner. He just has like this like real easy speed where like he's just blowing past defensive backs, and it just doesn't seem fair, just how just smooth of a player that he actually is. But it's kind of a coin flip between him and London.
You're splitting hairs.
Because I think London has more of that boom upside, because he has more of like the big play or like a deep ball kind of catch potential. Yeah. But Olave just does so many things so well. I really can't blame Brandon for taking him as a third wide receiver off the board for sure.
I know Brandon's a tape guy, so the fact that he took Olave over London, probably based on the tape, I put some stock into that opinion. So I may have to do some adjustments to my rankings, So that takes us to London, and boy, he's one of these guys that just scares the crap out of me. As an Eagles fan, these Pac-12 contested catch wide receivers, we've been through this nightmare before with JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and obviously London's a different player. He's a better player, that's a fact, but boy, the deja vu just has me a little nervous. So I may have to do some adjustments to my rankings because I think I had London above Olave, but my guy Brandon studying the tape, I may have to take his opinion and adjust my rankings here. So I think London's a fair pick there. I think plenty of fantasy managers would love to get him at the 1-6 there. I think that's providing great value to a lot of people. But man, me personally, I would have to think about it, and I might take a running back there. So I'm just getting more and more nervous as the draft approaches on Drake London. So I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand your sentiment there, and I do think I'm going to say the first 4 healthy wide receivers because I like Jameson Williams a lot, but if your roster can take on the risk of the late season injury, that's kind of a whole another issue. But with London, I think of those first 4, to me, he just has like the most bust potential because I think he will maybe get overdrafted in the actual NFL draft, and that may kind of throw off some dynasty managers because I think he can make big plays, but he is just what I've seen, and I'm not like a film connoisseur like Brandon, but he is just like wild with the ball. Like he's almost as like kind of reckless on his own self, but he brings on this contact and he makes these big plays and stuff. He is definitely a playmaker, but he is just very willing to take on maybe too much contact for my liking.
The biggest criticism I saw of him on Twitter recently was like, with the whole contested catch thing, it's like, well, why are you in the position to have so many contested catches? Are you not getting open? Are you not creating separation? So that I took that into account. I was like, ooh, that's a good point. So, Axe, how do you feel about Drake London?
Yeah, like you. I think for me personally, that's kind of where I'm taking Kemba Walker I'm thinking that's where that's where I'm taking Walker in the first round here, and
it's playoff basketball season.
Absolutely. I just finished a fantasy basketball season not long ago, so bear with me here. So, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going more running back at that point in the draft, but London, he fits in that top tier of the wide receivers, but again, it's just kind of what kind of dynasty player are you willing to take that risk and possibly pay off big dividends, or are you going to play it more safe and probably veer somewhere else? Because like say there's a big group right there in that second tier, and if any others are available, you might not be a bad idea to go elsewhere.
This is the part of these rookie drafts where it starts to get real sticky, and why a lot of the good strategy thrown out there is to potentially trade back from these picks. If you're and wait until you're on the clock and these players are available, and go find the Drake London stan out there in your league and say, hey, I'm about to take London. Who wants to pay me get a 23 first? And maybe a 23 fourth to trade out of the pick, or trade back and get a 23 second or something like that. Those are the kinds of moves, if you feel kind of the same way we do here, where it's just from these picks and forward, they all come with a great amount of risk, and they're just everything's just sort of bunched up into this giant tier of like, they've all got their high upsides, but they've all got extremely low floors as well. So that's where we're talking strategy. So again, brings us right to Jameson Williams coming off the injury. What's the NFL going to think about that? I am hearing that the NFL, similar to Waddle, coming off his injury, still got drafted extremely high. The NFL loves these Alabama players, running backs, wide receivers especially. I mean, he could go as the first or second wide receiver in the NFL draft. You're going to see him scoot right ahead of all these other guys if he goes ahead of them in the NFL draft. However, coming off that injury, is he even going to be ready to play week 1? These are the things you have to take into account. What would you guys be doing here at the 7th pick? You going with Jameson or someone else?
I would probably looking to get Spiller at this point. I do like safe. It almost seems a little safer. I do think Jameson obviously is a great player, but like if I'm picking 1-7, that kind of tells me that I'm kind of like an outside shot contender, or did decently well last year, kind of a middling. And I'm just looking for someone who's going to potentially help my team right away and not delay that. So I think someone that could help me get me over the top would be Spiller. And because it is kind of a deeper, it is a pretty decent wide receiver class, I would be looking to scoop up a wide receiver in the 2nd round if I went that direction. So I would be looking to get Jameson Williams a little bit later in the first, but I do think he's a first-round talent if your roster can take on a little risk for sure.
Gotcha. What do you think, Axe?
Right, absolutely. Those Alabama players are very coachable players. So like you guys were saying, they would be players that, just about any NFL team could kind of morph and shape into their own and really fit in wherever. And so, like you said, at the end of the first round, you're probably wanting more of an immediate impact. I'd say I agree with a running back pick here, or possibly filling in a more immediate hole and playing Jameson in more of the long game.
Gotcha. All right. So now that the next pick, we're come to our first, I'll consider it reach of the draft, where we had Christian Watson going at the 108. The FBS, the North Dakota State Bison man who lit up the combine and had people going crazy. I don't think a lot of us in this room would have pulled the trigger on him there, but maybe this particular manager knew something we don't, or just was enamored with that testing and just wanted to get his guy. So it's nice to have that athletic profile and that combine testing, but we know like it's often overvalued, especially from fantasy analysis standpoint. It doesn't really correlate much to predicting future fantasy success. So probably not the pick for me. What do you guys think about Christian Watson?
Yeah, I think Christian Watson is more of a sleeper pick in later rounds.
Right.
Potentially pay off and have some big dividends. I mean, he's being 6'4". He's no doubt he's fast. He can jump. He had one of the top broad jumps and verticals at the combine. So he's definitely going to make for a massive target for any quarterback. And again, I think it just kind of comes down to maybe his coachability and it just kind of all depends on how well he kind of picks up the NFL game and how he acclimates to his new environment. And if he gets in the right situation, I think he could be paying off dividends of that spot. But I think I'm waiting a little bit longer. I think in most drafts you can generally probably get him later on in the second,
mid second or so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. With a lot of what Axe just said there. Very intriguing player, obviously,
for sure.
But I would probably want to go a little safer. Get like a Jahan Datsun, not just because of the hat, but that may have something. Yeah, maybe have something a little something to do with it. But no, I would probably would have gone Datsun or Pickens at that point. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of going and get your guys, but at this point, I probably would have gone a different route. But
I think, go ahead.
Nope, I'm good. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think most of us are probably sliding all four of these picks potentially in front of him. If you're in that position in your rookie draft, even if you like Christian Watson, I'm trying to trade back there, pick up some more assets and go grab him later on. Don't reach for him. If you miss out on him, not the end of the world. So the next guy here is pretty polarizing. He was a Devi darling for quite some time, and then he really kind of shit the bed in the combine and really disappointed a lot of folks with his athletic testing. Isaiah Spiller coming out of Texas A&M had some really good, box score compilation stats through the SEC. But man, that's just a tough athletic profile for a running back. So we know speed kills for wide receivers often. It doesn't really correlate all that much, but man, for running backs it sure does. And Spiller just came out really flat. I think he tested slightly better on his pro day with the 40 time, but nothing significantly to move him back up anybody's draft board. So I like Spiller's actual skill set, the way he plays football. He could do just about everything between catching, running, can handle goal line, all that good stuff. But so I do like him ahead of probably a couple of the wide receivers, but he's still one of these scary guys that he could just fall flat on his face. So Steve, what do you think about Spiller there?
Yeah, I think this is a good spot for him. And depending on my team, this is probably what I would do either way. And I think his landing spot, this is one like Axe was saying. Like I think we'll learn about a lot about how the NFL views him on draft day, because he could be like a third round pick, but if he becomes like a late day 3 kind of a player, I don't know, that he might bump down around. So I do at this point like him as a player, but it is a little worrisome. Hopefully he can bounce back from that nagging, what was it, ankle injury or something? I forget what he was nursing, but But either way, I don't want to get too worked up about an injury, because obviously I'd be happy to take Jameson Williams, but with the ACL there. But So Spiller, I do like, but I think we will learn a lot about him and how the NFL thinks about him in the actual draft for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Ax?
Yeah, man, being one of the first few running back prospects in this draft class coming off the board after that combine, that's pretty disappointing. So I'm sure people are probably nervous and hesitant to pick him up, but given the big gap and the way the tiers kind of fall in this draft class, I don't mind him being in that spot in this part of the draft.
It feels like that's about where he should be going at this point. So we'll see. Now, if he pulls a Kenny Gainwell and slides to the 5th round or something later, we might see him, fall into the 2nd or 3rd rounds of rookie drafts. So he's going to be one of the biggest winners or losers based on after the draft is complete. And it just doesn't feel like he's destined to be a workhorse. He seemed like he had that upside coming out of college and finishing up college, but now I just don't know I don't know that NFL teams are going to view him with that workhorse upside. So we'll see what happens. The next wide receiver off the board, well, let's combine both of them, George Pickens and Jahan Dotson. Pickens was a Devi darling for quite some time, had some bad injury luck, and also coming out of that Georgia offense that, doesn't really chuck the rock all that much. They're run first. So versus the Jahan Dotson, smaller guy, but lightning quick, great route runner. Coming out of not a very prolific Penn State offense either. So I feel like these guys kind of fall due to their, situations in college and, not being able to necessarily be showcased like they should have. So I like the values there. I think they're kind of interchangeable for me. I don't have a super strong opinion on having one above the other. I would be fine with either one of them at either one of these spots. I lean Pickens a little bit. Just from the size aspect, I'm kind of an alpha guy, but there's nothing wrong with Dotson either. So that's kind of where I land on those two. So how about you guys?
I would probably lean Dotson here.
Weird.
I know, right? Yeah, so crazy. I would say that, but there is something to say about we are trying to have fun at the end of the day. So if it's more fun for you to get a player from the college you went to or the team you like, because they are just so close in ranking for me, I really could go either way. But in that case, I would probably just lean with the guy I probably spend more time watching. But I admit I had to test my biases too, But
I love that point of view.
Yeah, but like you said, Dotson, he does catch everything. He is a really great player, but Pickens definitely has that more attractive to an NFL offense where he fits that alpha profile for sure. But I would just kind of go with the Dotson side just personally. But yeah.
So beyond the lazy comparison of they went to the same school, is there any similarities between Datsun and KJ Handler from just a year ago? We saw Handler get 2nd round draft capital, which is fantastic, but then he, had an injury. Is there any similarities between those two guys in their game, in your opinion?
I think
Dotson's better, isn't he?
I think Dotson's better.
Okay.
And Dotson's small, but he's still bigger than Handler.
Right,
because
Handler is tiny.
He's a tiny, 5'9", 170 or something like this. Really exciting player, very productive at Penn State, and was a punt returner and stuff too. So he was able to do a lot of things. And then since being in the league has struggled with injuries. But yeah, I think that Dotson is just a more all around better player where Handler had to kind of get himself into space. There's no way he's going to make it a contested catch type of play. And Dotson has kind of a unique leaping ability that there's some there's some real like circus catches he was able to bring down. So I do think Datsun is a better prospect for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, no, they both are on the smaller side. But I think Datsun could potentially fit into like a slot role quicker than Handler. You kind of have to be a little bit extra creative to get Handler. I guess give him the scheme for him. That's right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to speak about there.
Yeah. All right, Axe, what do you think about these two guys?
Yeah, I'm like you guys. I think with again, going back to just kind of how clustered this part of the draft and this year's class is, you can't really forget about the old fashioned, just having a preference for somebody, and that just makes the game more fun when it comes down to it. If they're not hands down, better than the rest, why not take your favorite? It just makes the game that much more enjoyable, and when your dividends do pay off, you're just having a blast at that point. So I think when it comes down to it, if you got a preference of one over the other, I don't think you can really go wrong here with Pickens and Datsun at this point in the draft. I do think talent wise they do fall into the back end of this next tier of wide receivers that we've kind of come down to. But again, with depending on where they go, you may not go wrong with any of them, get in the right situation. So anything
feels like appropriate value,
Absolutely.
All right, now to the last pick of the first round, another Georgia Bulldog, Zamir White. This is a guy who's climbing my rankings, and especially once we see the landing spot in the draft capital, I may have him above Spiller and maybe even creeping into the same tier at least as Big Kenny Walker. I'm falling more in love with Zamir White the more I study the profile. He's got elite speed. I think he ran like a 4 in the 4.3s, if I'm not mistaken, or very low 4.4 40. And for running backs, that is much more of a sticky athletic measurable to predict future success. So I kind of view him as like a Jameson Williams type. Doesn't really catch much. Doesn't mean he can't catch. Same thing with Kenny Walker. I forgot we didn't really touch on that much, the catching upside. He can catch. He just didn't. I feel like Zamir White might fall into that same category. Again, they didn't throw to their running backs all that much, at least not the White. James Cook was a specialist there. So, Zamir White's going to handle first, second down, and goal line opportunities. I'll take that all day. I don't need the catches if he's getting, the important touches. I know targets are worth more technically to running backs, but you know what? Touchdowns are king. And Zamir White just feels like a guy who's, he could be pushing 800-900 yards and double-digit touchdowns even in his rookie year in the right landing spot. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling stronger and stronger about him every day.
Yeah, he's growing on me too. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I don't have too strong of an opinion on him at this point.
Gotcha.
We don't want to scout the helmet, but just coming out of that pipeline that Georgia does have, from Nick Chubb and DeAndre Swift, if he's next in line in that kind of a trajectory, that's very exciting. But I can't lie, I'm not 100% sure on where I'm at with him at this point. But I'll take your word for it because you know what you're doing, so I can kind of set my confidence in that the same way we can set our confidence in Brandon, and everything else. So
yeah. When you kind of get down to the end of the first round here, it just kind of you can really go about anywhere. So Zamir White kind of makes sense there. He's not too far behind Isaiah Spiller, but arguably about end of second round, somewhere in or end of the first round, somewhere in the second round, you're picking him up. And I keep going back to landing spots, man. Even a second, third round pick can come out and surprise you if they're in the right situation. If their 3 down back takes the lead, man.
Yeah.
Stuff surprise you.
Right. A lot of what we're talking about could go right out the window come come next Thursday and the weekend. So I get it. So I'm gonna go through the rest of the drafts kind of in chunks by round, and we can just call out guys that stick out to us. So once we start the second round off here, Skye Moore, wide receiver out of Western Michigan, small school guy with a great production profile, and he crushed the combine. So he's kind of a sleeper that's on a lot of people's radars. Rashad White, a running back. I can't remember his school. Does anybody know his school? He was at Arizona State. That's Pac-12, right? Yeah, and he was at Pac-12. So, a lot of people fall in love with those Pac-12 guys. I'm a little more reserved on them. Give me Brian Robinson out of Alabama. Kind of what I was saying with the Jameson Williams. The NFL trusts those guys a lot more, I think, than your Pac-12 compilers playing against lesser competition. And then we see the quarterbacks starting to come off the board. Willis, Coral, and Pickett. So the first half of the second round there. Any picks stand out to you guys? Any favorites? Any reaches? Anything like that?
I don't think so. I think that looks pretty good. I probably would have gone quarterback a little early, like maybe. Okay. I mean, again, it's like splitting hairs. It's only 2-4, but I would probably be looking at Willis at 2-2, 2-3, something like that. He would be my first QB there. But again, it's just right in that same range, I would think anyway. So,
do you like that order of the QBs, or would you switch it up?
I do like that order a lot.
Okay.
Going into the next round, I was surprised that there was the big jump to Ritter, then the even bigger jump to Howell. That seemed to be kind of curious to me. But either way, I do think that would be the correct order. Now, again, the landing spot could make a big difference. Like Pickett is one of these guys who's been so up and down in the draft process.
Right.
Treylon Burks with the big hands, and then Pickett's on the opposite end of that spectrum, which does matter for quarterbacks.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're going to see the rookie drafts are going to shake out in the same exact order, most likely, as we see the NFL draft pick these quarterbacks. So, just keep an eye out for that. I would. This year's crop is so underwhelming that I would probably just trust the NFL unless you're got a super strong opinion about one of them. It doesn't seem like many people do. Willis was not a projected first rounder until this year. Same with Pickett. I'm personally sticking with my guy Sam Howell. He produced earlier in his career with much better talent. He lost all of his good key position players. So, he's probably the guy that I personally have the strongest opinion on. So it's him and Willis for me at the QB 1 and 2. And then, I'm probably not going to have much of Pickett personally. Corral, has a ton of upside. The injury scares me a little bit as far as just from a development standpoint. You got to get reps. You got to get practice. So that's just what scares me about him. So how about those first 6 picks for you, Ax? Anything stand out to you? You like, you don't like?
No, I think maybe your pick are there at the 1, Skye Moore. I think in typical drafts he might go a little bit later, but I think
he's my guy.
I wouldn't have been. I would have probably pulled the trigger because there's chances are he may not make it back to you. So
exactly my thought.
Pick there strategically.
Yeah.
Generally, if you don't have any Skye Moore fans, you can probably pick him up later in the draft. But as far as the QBs go, I'm there with Willis there at the 1. I got Pickett going. I got Pickett behind him, and honestly, I like Ritter's performance at the combine. So I'm on the Desmond Ritter train. I think he's got a lot to offer for a struggling offense in the NFL.
He's flying up the mock draft boards, I'm seeing.
I think the Seahawks landing point would be prime for him.
Definitely. Yes. And I think, for people, looking at Ritter, if he does hit that spot, I'd probably pull the trigger.
On all Seahawks players.
Right. He lifts all of them, I think. So if an NFL team pulls the trigger on him, I would follow through with it in your rookie drafts too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So then, the next 6 here, David Bell, Purdue, had a bad combine, so he's fallen for people. Dameon Pierce, the running back from Florida. Our first IDP off the board with Aiden Hutchinson, the D lineman out of Michigan. Running back Tyler Algier. He's out of he's the BYU guy, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Calvin Austin, Memphis. That felt like a bit of a reach. And then our girl Faith took she's a Bulldogs fan, so we're not going to give her too much guff over it. But Jordan Davis is a phenomenal athlete and is by far the top defensive tackle. I'll touch on the IDP side. You're not going to see him go that early in many leagues, even if it's a DT premium IDP league, simply because he's not necessarily he's not like your Aaron Donald pass rusher type defensive tackle. He could turn into that, but he's more of that run stopper and just eating up space. He's a huge man, and like I said, phenomenal athlete. I mean, for his size, he ran like a 4.7 or 4.8 40, something like that, which is just insane. So love the player, but for IDP fantasy purposes, you probably don't need to take him there. That was a bit of a homer pick. Now, Aiden Hutchinson, if your league rewards sacks more so than the standard, so if you're getting at least 6 points between, call it the sack, some leagues stack up tackles for loss and the QB hit. So between all three of those categories, you're getting at least 6 points or greater for sacks. I don't mind taking Hutchinson there that early, but if your sacks are in that 4 and 5 point or lower range, you're not touching any defensive lineman until at least the back of the third, early fourth round, and you want to take your linebackers at the end of the second, early third. So that's our little touch on the IDP pieces. For me, it was between Skye Moore and David Bell. I just kind of went with Moore's more of a my guy. I don't know a ton about Dameon Pierce. I know Algier is a sleeper for a lot of people. And then Calvin Austin, I don't know much about either. I guess he's a sleeper. Looks like pretty small here, so I hope he's really fast.
He had a pretty good combine performance.
That's what I was gonna say. What do you guys know anything about Calvin Austin? So he did well at the combine, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had an awesome 40 time. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe not a reach, maybe, again, sounds like he's going to be one of these landing spot dependent guys. But yeah, I don't know. David Bell, he produced against some top defenses. He played in a tough conference. I know, he kind of disappointed at the combine, but again, for wide receivers, it's not everything. So I would have probably moved Bell way up there in the early second, along with Brian Robinson and some of the QBs, and push down maybe Rashad White and some of these other guys at the end of the second. So anybody stand out to you guys there?
Yeah, I think David Bell is a better player in terms of like a route runner compared to how he tested. So if you do like David Bell as a player, well, he could be a fantastic buy here in the second round. Like another player like Keenan Allen, who can just get open with the best of them, but probably didn't test super well and fell. And well, maybe not fell, but he was like a third round pick, I believe, in the NFL draft. So there is opportunity for these good route runners for sure. And then back to Davis, that Faith took. I think he'll have a bigger impact on the actual football field rather than your fantasy roster, as you were alluding to. Yeah. Trying to think here, but yeah, I probably like what you're saying about the IDP players usually go in like the third and like fourth round. I probably would have been looking at Ritter where Hutchinson went, or Howell even, so I probably would have been looking to get a quarterback. And since I don't know the most about IDP, I would want to get maybe not the first guy to get a defensive player, but try to hop in there before like the top tier is gone. So I would stick with what I know and get like a quarterback at that defensive spot. But that's just
gotcha. All right, Axe, any standouts for you?
Yeah, well, I think Nothing really stands out to me. I think like you guys were going, defensive players are probably going more third round. Those playing or those that have picks in the towards the end of the draft will kind of be able to play this a little bit more by ear. If you don't have as much experience in the IDP world, you can kind of see where people are falling and how early defensive guys are going. So there's definitely an advantage there when you get to this point in the draft. But nothing too crazy standing out there. I think maybe Sam Howell would be a good pick up there, like you guys were saying, and Desmond Ridder, and wrapping up that last tier of running backs.
Okay, so that closes out the end of the second. I'm going to go through the full third here. James Cook, running back out of Georgia, projected to be kind of a pass-catching specialist. Then we got Ridder, like we said, flying up draft boards. The first tight end off the board with Trey McBride at a Colorado State, projected to be the top tight end. Our next IDP, and Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah. He's kind of a do-it-all. Linebacker. He's projected to be, I think he should be the top IDP player taken in rookie drafts, despite if he goes as the first actual linebacker in the NFL draft. Pass rusher out of Purdue, George Karlaftis, I believe is how you say it. Another top linebacker, Nakobe Dean, going in the 6th spot. Kevon Thibodeaux lasted a lot longer than I thought he would. He's the 3rd defensive lineman off the board here. Some character concerns there, but I think he's still projected to go as a top 3 pick.
What injury was it specifically? I forget.
No, I said character concerns. Like with his, is he a me guy or something like that? But is he dealing with a nagging injury? I can't remember.
I thought, who was it who went down? I thought it was Thibodeaux that went down in one of the maybe.
I think it's a guy out of Michigan who you got Steve in the 5th round there.
Okay.
Like say,
so
I
me,
I'm not IDP expert.
But no, I mean, like he was projected to go in like the mid first, or at least like by the end of the first. So I kind of like that spot where you got him at the end of the 5th there, because he is like top talent, and it's an unfortunate injury. But if you can just
he'll be back.
Yeah, for sure.
Ojabo is definitely he's an excellent if you have played with taxi squads on your dynasty, he's a great guy to throw into there. Then just finish up Leo Chanal. I believe he's out of Wisconsin, more of your old school, typical middle linebacker. The top defensive back, Kyle Hamilton, out of Notre Dame. Trayvon Walker out of Georgia is flying up mock draft boards. And then we end it with 2 quarterbacks in Howell and Carson Strong. So Howell's my guy. This is exactly the area that you'll start to see the IDPs go. So, most of your drafts, anybody that plays IDP, you're going to see the Hutchinsons and the Jordan Davises. They're not always going to go in the late 2nd there. So stick them all in the 3rd, move up some of those quarterbacks. Maybe James Cook squeezes into the end of the 2nd. So I like the way this round flowed a little bit better than the 2nd even. Like we said, we like Ridder to go a little bit earlier. The first tight end there, McBride, I'm probably not going to be the guy to take the first tight end this year. What do you guys think about the tight end situation?
I'm a fan of the tight ends this year. I mean, I don't think that any one of these tight ends are going to come in and be a game changer by any means. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But as far as being a role player and a solid chain movers, guys that you can depend on when it comes down to it, I think there's going to be more guys. I like Dulcich down there.
Yes, me too.
And the end of the 5th round. Some of these guys, they could be sleepers. A lot of the tight ends probably aren't. Nobody's keeping an eye on tight ends, especially the rookies now, unless you got a Kyle Pitts coming out. So, if opportunity presents itself, I think there's a few tight ends in the draft that could go. But as far as far as defensive guys, when you get to this point in the draft, as far as like the third round, you're kind of getting more out of the more reliable wide receivers and running backs. So I wouldn't be afraid to go more defense at the end of the second round. If you could really use the help on defense, don't be afraid to pick up those top tier linebackers that are really going to come in and get the plays, and
because they're going to score you more points consistently than some of these dart throw offensive guys.
If you're looking to make an upgrade in your starting lineup at this point in the second round, if you're picking a flex spot, you're looking for somebody with a future. But if you're looking for more help now, don't be afraid to get those top defensive linebackers that are really going to come in and get that playing time.
Totally agree. How about you, C? What do you think about the tight end class?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of McBride. It's one of these things where it's like if someone were to be aggressive on him and get him, it's like that's fine. Definitely in tight end premium, I'd be a little bit more aggressive, at least at this point. But if I miss out on him, I'm just gonna shoot for the moon and get like a Jelani Woods, like you said, just with a Jabo, just like a perfect guy to just stash, just with it being such a scarce position. I think it's just great to lock in on these just like athletic freaks. You know what I mean? So I do like McBride, but I probably wouldn't dabble with anyone below him. I just would try to punt on the position. But I think the third round is fair. Although I'm absolutely going to take Howell before him. I think it's interesting.
Same.
Howell and Strong went back to backs. I do see a big gap between those two. But maybe in this case, like Faith is like, all right, Strong is just the best last quarterback, so just get him there and just worry about the rest. So I can't blame her for that. I just find it fascinating that they went back to back. I don't think you're ever are going to see that again. So I just find that very interesting, But so I'd probably in this particular mock draft, I'd probably would switch Howell and McBride, and that would make a little bit more sense to me. But the tight end class to me feels a little uninspiring, sort of like the quarterback class. Like you got a couple of decent guys, but and also there, if you're going to invest a third round pick in your tight end, and he doesn't pop off in year one, don't give up. Keep him on that taxi squad. You shouldn't probably be expecting any of these tight ends to pop off in year one. Sort of like Alberto, just hang on to him. Don't give up, but don't expect a whole lot. That's why I'm probably not going tight ends in the third round much.
No, definitely. This year's tight end draft class, you're going more for the long game. So generally, your tight ends probably aren't going to go off till the fourth or fifth round. And
exactly.
At that point, you're just you're playing that long game, hoping maybe they get in the right opportunity, or in their sophomore year, maybe they can make something happen. But don't. I wouldn't go early on. I'm expecting immediate dividends.
Right.
It's a much more reasonable opportunity cost there to just fourth round, fifth round, rather than third, second round, where there's still plenty of talent to be gathered. 100%.
Yeah, I'm taking, if you happen to be at the front of the draft, like I chose my spot, I was happy to get James Cook, but honestly, beyond him, I'm taking IDPs in here. I'm taking the top linebackers in Lloyd, Dean, Chanal here, or Kyle Hamilton should be the top safety off the board. Maybe if I'm at the back of the third, I personally would pull the trigger on some of the linemen like Hutchinson, Thibodeaux, Walker, or Karlaftis, but that's what strategy wise what I'm doing in this particular round. So if you're early on and one of the last good offensive players of a tier falls to you, then grab them. If not, and you play IDP, grab those top IDP linebackers and the safety in Hamilton. So that's what I'm doing. Finishing off, we got Justin Ross out of Clemson. He's another kind of my guy. I personally just like him. I remember what he was prior to the horrible luck and injury there in Clemson. So he's kind of my lottery ticket there. We got Chad Mumma, linebacker out of Wyoming. Again, predicted to be or profiled to be more of that traditional, you just eating up tackles, stuff in the run type guy. Another Georgia guy, Quay Walker. Everybody from Georgia seems they're, I think we're going to see they could push the Alabama record for the first round this year between offense and defense. I think they could easily, come close to those 5, 6, 7 players taken in the first round. Khalil Shakir is a guy. That's a sleeper wide receiver name to remember. He's been blowing up fantasy mock draft boards. I believe he performed well at the combine. Jerome Ford, running back out of Cincinnati, prototypical first and second down guy. Don't hate the value there. I think it's pretty good value. A guy who was atop a lot of people's draft boards, but shit the bed also at the combine, Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame. Not a fan. So we'll get to him. We'll stick right there. What do you guys think about Kyron Williams? You guys still keeping up hope or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was pretty well utilized as a pass catcher at Notre Dame. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I think that is appealing in the way of like looking at James Cook out of Georgia, but the testing just there's very little blood flow, if you will. You know what I mean? Like there's no need to really reach for him. But then again, here in the middle of the 4th round, why not? So I really don't mind that for Jason there. I think that's fine. But just talk about your all-time plummets. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm not holding out much hope. How about you, Axe? Any thoughts on Kyron Williams?
No, man, I'm not good.
You're out.
I'm not on board. I'm definitely more of a play it safe guy. I think I'm going more of if you're a fan and you're trying, you want to throw out your Hail Mary like you were talking about at this point in the draft. Sometimes that's just kind of how it is if you pick him up. But I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. So then we got Christian Harris, a top linebacker out of Alabama. He should be going pretty early in the NFL draft. Most people's number 2 safety, Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State there, another Penn State guy for you. Penn State churns out defense like no other, so probably a pretty safe pick. Then we have another guy, John Metchi out of Alabama. Another risk, what do we think about Metchi? Anybody got anything on him? I think it's a great dart throw for that value. You can't really, that late in the rookie draft. I think the upside is there. So I kind of love that pick personally.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very good value for sure. Definitely a player that I would throw a dart on, especially like in this draft here. If I hadn't gotten a wide receiver at this point, I really can't blame that pick at all. I like that.
Sweet.
You go back to all these guys from Alabama and Georgia, some of these top contending schools, and I'm gonna go back to the coachability. Those guys coming from those schools really may not have the talent at this point, but they have the tools and they have the coachability and they have the eagerness to learn. And a couple of years down the road, one of these picks might just pay off in their sophomore year or something like that at this point. So I like some of these dart throws. I don't mind Metchi at this point in the 4th round. I think that like say any one of them Georgia guys or Alabama guys can really turn into somebody.
They feel like almost a safe pick, despite being so late in the rookie draft. Coming from those schools, they just kind of feel safe. So we got Nick Benito, linebacker out of Oklahoma, Tyler Beatty, running back out of Missouri. He's a personal favorite of mine as a great value there at the end of the 4th. I think he's got great upside. And then Steve, I know you were big on Wan'Dale Robinson here at the end of the 4th. That seems like great value for him, right?
I think it's phenomenal. He is sort of a player that a team would have to get pretty creative in getting him the ball. not quite like KJ Hamler, like what I was saying before, but you know, he is one of these hybrid type of players that fits the mold of like everyone wants to find the next Deebo Samuel. And I'm not even going to go there, but I'm just saying he has a similar skill set, you know, a similar skill set to
That's
him.
fair.
But then again, you can have this floor of like Tavon Austin too, who just probably was a little overdrafted for his own sake. But either way, I love that selection by Faith. I think that makes up for her Jordan Davis pick for sure.
Nice.
And Faith, we love you. Please don't delete my article. But yeah, so I actually am ecstatic about that selection there in the late fourth.
Great value. Any guys you like here in the fourth act? I've
seen Wan'Dale Robinson all over Twitter, man.
Yeah.
Everybody is hopping on board of that train. So I think you got great value there with him at the end of the fourth round. Somebody that can really, like say, can pay off those dividends in the end of the fourth and fifth round. If you got a Hail Mary and he's on the board, snatch him up. I mean,
exactly. Not for me, at least, not a guy you want to reach for necessarily. But
no,
man, if he falls in your lap,
early, but at this point in the draft, late fourth, fifth round,
exactly,
almost a Hail Marys every year, anyways. You know, I mean,
yeah,
nobody's going into the fourth and fifth round expecting it the picks to just come right out and kill it.
Great guy to have fall into your lap there. So, all right, finish off the last round. My guy David Ojabo was projected to be a first rounder before very unfortunately tearing ACL in his pro day, I believe it was. So I'm sure he can still go back into the first, but more likely second, maybe third, depending on the injury. He was a raw talent to begin with. Similar to Trayvon Walker, who we now see shooting way up. So it really stinks because it sounds like that could have been Ojabo being the one shooting way up with sort of the limited, production, but with the raw talent. And now we see that kind of happening with Trayvon Walker coming out of Georgia. So if you play with taxi squads, this is a great guy to snag in the last round, however many rounds you have, and just stash him and wait for him to get healthy. Jelani Woods tore up the combine, speedster, supplanted Jalen Weidermeyer. I don't even think he got drafted here. He's out of the tight end rankings for a lot of people. So this is a great sleeper tight end to keep on your radar. Alec Pierce fell way further in this draft. I think this might have been a casualty of the sleeper ADP at the time of this draft because I haven't been seeing him go this late in any recent draft. So that was a great steal and maybe more of a system glitch than anything else. Joey the Two loves this guy, Romeo Dew. So keep this name for your last rounds or whatever, out of Nevada. Good size, great hands. Joey's got an article about him. Check him out. He's all about him. So that's definitely a name to keep in mind. Daxton Hill, the safety 3, coming out of Michigan, projected to be a top producing safety, hopefully even as a rookie. So if you're needy at that position in IDP, great later round guy to take. Jermaine Johnson, he's listed as a linebacker here. He's more of a pass rusher. So hopefully he'll get that dual eligibility and go to a team that, puts him on the D line. But he's a sleeper for sure for your defensive line picks. Pierre Strong, a lot of people are coming more and more around on running back out of South Dakota State here. So that's a name, to keep in mind.
For the fastest 40 in the combine.
There you go. And for running backs, that's very important.
I'm picking him up for sure in the late rounds in my dynasty leagues. And if, say, when you go back to those landing spots in the last couple of rounds, you're kind of taking a prayer anyways. If you got rookie mocks after or rookie drafts after the actual NFL draft,
right?
And you can find you're on the border of this guy or that guy, and somebody goes to the right place in any of these last couple of rounds.
Right.
I wouldn't be afraid to go with the guy that's got the better opportunity.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of these rounds, these 3 through 5. You'll see a lot of players shifting positions, and some falling and some going way higher into the third round there. Jeremy Rucker, the Ohio State tight end. He's a lot of people's tight end 1. as is Greg Dulcich out of UCLA. He's probably going to end up being my tight end one. Again, it's depending on how we see the draft play out, but he's a personal favorite of mine. But I got to do some more research into Rucker, but the more I see into his profile, the more and more I'm liking him as well. Jalen Tolbert, a wide receiver out of South Alabama, great production profile, fine athlete, didn't really do anything crazy at the combine, but he's going to just be one of these solid guys. Probably round 3 draft capital, maybe round 4. So probably not going to be a wide receiver 1 anytime soon for your team, but someone who's worth stashing. Brandon Smith out of Penn State. You know anything about him, Steve?
Honestly, I don't. but it is linebacker U, so
exactly.
So I can just kind of be rest assured in that, but I really can't lie to you. I really don't. Hey. I know more about Brisker. I can say he's definitely more of like a ball magnet. He just always seems to be where the pass is being broken up. So he's great as far as like a defensive back goes. It's a little bit more scarce too. But Brandon Smith can't help you there, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
So Brisker sounds like more like he could give you those big plays. So if you're in a league that rewards like interceptions and pass breakups, sounds like he's always around the ball. In addition to, a good tackle for, he's got the potential to give you those high impact plays as well. So keep your eyes out for Brisker too. And then the last pick of the draft, Jerrion Ealy out of Ole Miss, another SEC running back. Hey, never a bad idea to take a dart throw on some of these SEC running backs. So I'll give you guys the final words with any players you want to call out in this last round.
I did an article over Kevin, or not over anybody in particular, but people that kind of stood out to me in the combine. I like Kevin Harris from South Carolina.
I was surprised he didn't get drafted.
Yeah, he might be one that I'm picking up in round 5 or something like that if he's still on the board.
Yeah.
He's a solid, 5'10", 220. I mean,
great size.
He's a downhill rusher for a team needing, that needs it at the running back position. So if he lands in the right spot, I think he could be a workhorse. I'm not going to say he's going to go out and break any rushing records or anything like that, but he could very well maintain some sort of touchdown, dependency value. We've had running backs come into the NFL and make a living off a touchdown. So,
and it sounds like he'll have to earn it. He's not gonna be drafted as a starting running back,
exactly.
But maybe some good luck, some bad luck for other people with injuries. But maybe he gets to play due to some injury, and when that happens, you're gonna want to have him on your team.
Absolutely.
Steve, anybody for you that maybe didn't make it in, or that you like in this last round here?
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, Alec Pierce is a player I really like a lot. For the IDP Guys YouTube channel, I did a rookie mock draft review where I talked about Justin Ross as well and Alec Pierce, but I think Alec Pierce is I think he'll profile to a very attractive role in the NFL. And for his size, he had a really impressive 40 time. I kind of liken him as like a faster version of like an Eric Decker type. So with that kind of upside here in the 5th round, it's just nothing to lose, just absolutely nothing to lose. Then going and just touching on Justin Ross again, just a player I am just like over the moon for. Really, the only reason why you're getting him as late as you are is because that injury concern. So that could potentially be like this, like Elijah Mitchell kind of, league shifting player. You know what I mean? Just if he can be on the field, he's a guy I'm trying to get. And again, 4-1, that's like stealing as far as I'm concerned. But he just has to stay on the field though. So it's one of those things.
Good. I like that. That makes me feel good about my picks. The mocks always go much better in a mock than the real rookie drafts.
Thing, yeah.
And again, we're doing this all before the NFL draft, so a ton of what we've just said is probably going to be way out the window in a week or two. But it's fun to speculate. It's fun to talk through these guys' profiles. So thank you guys for joining. Anybody watching, we've got all these players profiled and more in our rookie magazine. So the link will be in the description here. It's a great piece. You can get a hard copy, go old school style when you used to, have your fantasy books, marking them up, writing them up. All the rookies are profiled in there. And then, or if you're in the digital age, we offer the PDF copy. So that's one of our great resources as part of a subscriber, or you could just buy it on its own. Become a subscriber. You get access to me, Steve, Axe, our whole team. Run your dynasty rosters by us. Help you make moves. And that's one of my favorite parts about what we offer is you just get to pick some of the best fantasy minds out there to help build your team. We've helped dozens of people win championships and repeat and stay strong among atop their leagues. So if you like what we had to say here, come check out the site, idpguys.org. Follow all of us on Twitter. That's where we live. And thank you for watching. Appreciate it.